How's it going, guys? It's Mr. Lone Wolf, and today I've finally got a review of this thing. Now I've finally unlocked it. It's been a while since I've done these review videos, so one or two things I was pretty rusty on, but for the most part it was kind of, yeah, like riding a bike again. So yeah, what's it called? The Azov 43191 Sprinter. That'll probably never be said again. Yeah, I'll just call it the Sprinter. So engine-wise, just top engine. Between the top two, one has better fuel consumption, but I don't know. I tend to think something with worse fuel consumption probably has more power. The gearbox, I've gone for the high range. Apparently that's faster than the Sport. Well, it is. I've got a little bit of footage where I tried the Sport. Yeah, I'll be sticking with the high range, definitely. Tyres, not a whole lot to choose from, a bit like the Dolphin and stuff. I've gone for the chained. I did, before I started this video, I went and tested out chained and muds. I couldn't find any difference. I was going through like certain mud puddles where I was getting stuck at the same time and all sorts. So yeah, and I'll be using chained for the snowy bits anyway. So just to keep it all even. The winch, I went for the strongest. The snorkel, you've got three different types on the roof. To be honest, the front floats, so you're never really going to need the snorkel. So either don't waste the money or just pick the one that's like sits the most flush on the top or whatever. And then add-ons, there's like, it says an internal like supply thing that must be in the back of the cab somewhere, but you can't see it. As for the roof, I put like a roll cage on. The front bumper, I prefer the colour coded one really, but I don't know, that one says reinforced. It does technically sit a bit higher, sticks out a tad more, but I think by that point you can sort of see all the gubbins underneath the front of the truck. That kind of catches stuff before the bumper's going to, oh sorry, I just knocked the mic. Yeah, and then what did I do? Put some headlights on or whatever. There's a few, yeah, just, I don't know, not really much of anything. Colour-wise, there's a custom paint job, and then when you go down to the bottom, you got all these different ones, which, to be honest, I actually quite like all of them. There's not really any one that I didn't like. I've just gone for the custom paint job for now, because, yeah, it's a custom one, so it looks pretty nice, all sign written up as a racing truck and all the rest of it. Yeah, looks-wise, I do quite like the look of it, to be fair. It has only got 4 tyres, though, which can potentially be like an issue in this game. You tend to get more grip the more axles and tyres you've got. Steering-wise, it was not doing like the opposite lock thing or anything like that. Inside, pretty typical race truck, got 3 seats. You can actually see the mirror on the other side. You sort of can see it pretty well. This side, you've got the netting that I think it's supposed to stop your arms flying out if you roll or something, but when you stick your head out, I can just about see the garage, and I can see my tyres. The horn, not terrible, like it's alright, it's not the best horn in the game or anything like that, but yeah. Engine, it idles at about 500, and funnily enough, I don't know why, I just kind of thought it'd be a bit of a quicker revving truck. I don't really know if it makes a difference or not, but some rev really quick, the needle flies up in like half a second, others take, yeah, more like 5 odd seconds. I think it revs up to about 1700 or something. And then when you turn the engine on, those fans start spinning. That's the only thing I was just checking for there. Yeah, no trailers, so you don't really have to go through any of that, which is a bit of a shame. Well, I don't know, they could have gone either way with it. It'd be quite cool if it could have some kind of trailers. But then, since it can't have trailers, personally, like, you're now to the point where you're just going to go roaming around the maps on it. And yeah, I think they should give it more power in that case. If they're going to make it kind of like not able to really do any missions, or obviously any that need cargo, yeah, they should just make it more of a fun thing to fly around in. And then going through here, this is what I was testing. I've not added all the footage because one, I was running out of like, I can only edit up to 50 clips, and and time as well. But I drove through here about 10 times, 5 odd times with the muds, 5 odd times with the chained. Yeah, I think once on both tyres I got all the way through, and every other time it was getting bogged down, whether it was near the beginning or near that sort of puddle at the end. But there was just nothing in it. There was no like clear winner by any stretch. So as I said, I kind of like to use the chained anyway, because I've used them in just about every vehicle, so it sort of, yeah, it creates like a level baseline for the tyres. It's not really the tyres I'm interested in. I want to see what the truck can do with the tyres. So by keeping the same tyres all the time, I kind of know that that's not really going to be affecting the results too much. And yeah, ploughing along there, like, nicely enough. I was seeing if that dog still appears when you flick the camera away and back, and yeah, it did for a second or two. It's still there. Coming down here, I was trying to steer into that. It kind of, as you can see, it didn't really steer. I've noticed a bit of understeer going on with it. Like, not crazy. Like, in general, the steering's actually not that bad. It's just obviously as you're bouncing around or whatever, it must lift up a bit. I assume there's more weight at the back than the front, probably, so as you are bouncing around, it's probably just a little bit light on the front. It did knock a big fat tree over. I've got a different bit with knocking trees over. You can see here, though, I mean, this just ain't really good enough. I can't think of any other vehicle, certainly trucks, that has got stuck there. And again, it kind of goes back to it's only got 4 wheels. Certainly for something like little scouts, it's not really an issue, but when you get the bigger trucks, lots of trucks in this game got 6 wheels, like Taiga, the Vorons, etc. That's a pretty good, like, solid baseline. I've always liked the Dolphin because I've just felt that extra set of tyres has always added more grip, and then again, Bruce was always an absolute monster for grip, and that's got 10 tyres. Yeah, just the fact that this is down to 4, not only is it less points of grip, but you're also, I suppose, like, focusing more weight on each corner. So, like back there where I sank in, I mean, I was hitting the throttle anyway, so I suppose the wheels would, like, chew through the mud one way or the other. But you can imagine if I had 2 more axles in the middle, you know, it's just like covering wheels all the way along the chassis. It'd certainly spread the weight a lot better. Driving through here, going across all these stones, it's funny, to be honest, because you hit some of them, it throws your truck around and it doesn't even take 1 bit of damage, and then you hit bits where it doesn't even look like anything really happened, and then you yeah, take damage. I apologise, I didn't realise that glitched until now. Well, thankfully you just saw, like, what happened. I smashed into the anti-terrorist barricade thing. Yeah, did a roll, thankfully got back to my wheels, and then when I drove through here, I appreciate that first mud section has always been extremely slow for some reason, but this was shocking. As soon as I touched it, it just pretty much stopped me dead, and you can see now, like, it's incredibly slow. I cut most of that out. It's not very good. When it comes to, like, boggy mud and water, it really doesn't like it. I left this footage in. I thought I may as well find the bits where it's doing better. A lot of trucks actually don't like going across that muddy section, whereas that field, and for whatever reason, this thing absolutely ploughed across there like it was nothing. So it's weird. Like, most of the time, it does kind of let you down, I think, with the terrain, particularly the muddy, boggy, watery sections. But every now and then, it just kind of ploughs through one as if it, yeah, doesn't really matter. This is just a bit of footage of the sports gearbox. The high range is definitely slower in the sport version, and then yeah, I think you've only got 6 gears, and the overall top speed is slower. But then as I pulled a harsh left now, you know, it bled a lot of its speed. It's not like having that lower ratio gears then meant it was just an absolute torque machine. It still felt just as torquey or torqueless as it normally does. So yeah, I'd definitely recommend the high range. See, through the first part of the snow, it was going, like, it didn't stop at all. As soon as I hit what I'd consider is, like, now super snow, it just stopped dead there. So it did good on the first half of the snow. Pretty terrible as soon as it hit the yeah, the rougher stuff. And then climbing over the barrier, it got over it, but I was scraping the chassis, which, yeah, I mean, this thing, it's not terrible for ground clearance, but again, back where I got bogged down in that mud, it possibly could do with say a raised suspension. The problem is, though, the weight again is not terrible, but it's not planted really low down and all the rest of it. So if you did also have raised suspension, it'd probably tip that little bit easier again. And it's not a nightmare for tipping or anything like that. It's just one of them where there's not really much warning going on. It's just like you go around a corner, sometimes it's completely flat and it's fine, and then suddenly it'll go and that's it. You just, extremely rare you ever have time to steer out of it. I think once, I can't remember if it's in this video, but earlier tonight, whatever, yeah, I did actually manage to steer out of once tipping, but it was kind of because I landed funny. It wasn't really just purely tipping over. Going over that little snow section, not terrible. It's better on snow than, certainly on, like, the boggy, watery mud. But then here, I've driven loads of trucks up here, and this thing just, it's not having it. Which I was just surprised, to be honest. I then started trying to move over to the left a little bit, because it's kind of a little bit like the rock sort of slopes up rather than just a bit of an abrupt stop. But yeah, you can see it skidding over. Again, more tyres, there'd be more grip points and all the rest of it. And then yeah, just to top things off, I slid off the rock and it went. At this point, I was just going to go to the garage. I didn't mean to go to this rock, but I clipped the snow with my right wheels and it just absolutely perfectly like yanked me to the right, and I skidded just perfectly lined up with the rock. So I was like, well, fair enough, I'll take the hint. I'll give it another go. That definitely went smoother. Like, yeah, maybe I just got unlucky with the first one. I don't know. And then going for the wall jump, I'll be honest, for whatever reason, I just didn't feel like it was just going to jump over there with no issue. I was kind of happy that it at least bumped the front of the nose up, so it at least cleared the wall, but nowhere near enough power to kind of get over after that. And as you can see, I'm just button mashing triangle to keep making the winch go on and off, because when I was just holding the winch is so, it's even more gutless than it was a couple of months ago or whatever. It's terrible these days. Like, they're just either, I don't know if it's on purpose. If it is, it's a bad decision. If it's accidental, then it's a lazy, sloppy decision not to fix and sort some of these things out. But yeah, the cranes are terrible these days. The winch is gutless. But eventually we got there. Like I said, just every time I was turning it on and off, it was just pulling my truck forward like a millimetre. So yeah, bit of the old days of Tekken, getting used to the button mashing. It got me out of there. And then going through the trees, it started well. I don't know what the hell I got caught on now, though. I'm not sure if there's a tree branch, like to that tree on my left. I couldn't really see like a branch sort of pinging off as a reversed or anything. So whatever I did get caught on there, I'm not too sure. Once I got through here, it was not too bad. Like I said, it's just every now and then where it's like, yeah, it just stops dead in something, where we've had trucks for since the start of the game that can just objectively pull through more stuff than that. I mean, when you think they give us trucks like the Zix is a beast. I'm like, the only way they really punished it is they didn't let it have chain tyres, and then they gave it us in a bloody 4 snowy maps. That was pretty stupid, but in the scheme of things, I'm glad that was the punishment. Right, like the truck itself is really nicely balanced, got enough power and all the rest of it. Yeah, I mean, again, this thing's like a racing truck. It's sort of a bit of a gimmick. It's not really going to be what you're going to be using to do all the missions anyway. But like I said, the fact that it can't have trailers, and you should just be able to go screaming around the map. There's certainly, yeah, times where it's just like, nah, I'd take a different truck. I'd take, yeah, the Tigers, the Voron, the Dolphin, the Zix, just because they can, yeah, get through the train so much better. Spotted a little loaf in the background there. I was going to do the cargo test, but obviously I can't do a trailer, so I brought the Tiger just to load the cargo there, and then I just figured while I was here, just an example of a truck that can jump the wall. Pretty much every time, 9 times out of 10 the Tiger just jumps over like that. Yeah, so I'm going to have to winch the trailer for this. It's sort of the only way I can do it. Turning circle wise, not terrible. I'd say the usual vehicles take a slightly tighter line than that, but it did turn around in the yard in one go. It didn't quite hit those garage doors or anything like that. So yeah, not terrible, but not great. And dropping the hammer down here, I find most of the time you're best off staying in high gear. This is probably one of the few exceptions, but it's the icy roads on Northport. They've always been pretty frictionless and just let you drop the hammer as much as it's gonna. I think I eventually got into 8th gear or close. I was going along here about now, I was like, oh, I don't know, this is looking alright actually. And then you see what I mean. It just instantly, when you touch whatever they designate various areas of the map as, yeah, whether it's dirt, mud, whatever they consider it, where you can just tell when you've transferred over to a different set of characteristics. Certain ones just absolutely stop. Sorry, my phone keeps beeping with the old charger. That's what I hear about 1,000 times a day. Yeah, I mean, it was completely shit here. I gave up even on like trying to tow the trailer. I was like, at this point, it was the truck looked like it was struggling enough just to get itself out of there. So yeah, we kind of just dropped the hammer on that one. Going along here is bringing back some memories. So it turns out the trailers did survive the update and all that blue screen and everything I've got going on the other month. It's funny because as I was driving down here, I remembered those trailers up to the petrol station, but as I was going on, I was like, Jesus Christ! Every single one of them trailers is a review. And yeah, it was probably a good job I didn't bring the trailer because, as you can see, pretty much ran out of room. Make it to this water. You see there, the second I touch what is considered deep water, it slows it down quite a bit. It's not very weighty, this truck. If they were, personally, if it was up to me, if I was able to make some adjustments about this truck, I would give it the equivalent of the Tatran tyres, especially because it's got only 4 tyres, and like I said, the way the game just sort of plays out, in more tyres tends to be better. So because this is lacking in tyres, I'd give it extra bonus, like grippy tyres. I'd add more weight low down, just so, not loads, but yeah, one, it'd help with the tipping a little bit, and secondly, I just think places like that water, or when I was dragging that trailer and I suddenly hit that bit of snow and just stopped dead, I think at least with a bit more weight, you'd, yeah, carry a bit more inertia through things. You can kind of realise how light this truck is, really, when you hit stuff like that, and it just absolutely stops it. On the interior view, to be fair, the dash sits fairly low, because that little tree that's kind of in the left corner of the window as I was climbing up the hill, quite a few trucks you start to, like, miss the bottom of that tree behind the dashboard, whereas I believe I could see that little tree the entire time. I'm going along here in high gear, I think I smack those rocks. But again, it ploughs along, like you can see. This is doing pretty well, to be fair. This is a good pace. It's in this sort of snow, it was doing really well, actually. But then where I was cutting across, but maybe where I was cutting across with that trailer, even though there is snow there, there's clearly loads of boggy mud underneath, and maybe it just reverts to that and counts, because now look at this boggy mud. It just, oh, fucking typical. There's like a tiny half-second glitch there, but as you can see, as soon as I hit the water and the boggy mud, it just stops me dead. Used a winch to try and get back over to where like the mud's sticking out the water. Had to fling a winch over to that side, and even then, I'm only moving really as fast as the winch will let me. So yeah, definitely avoid, like, this thing would be pretty horrific, I imagine, on a map like flooded foothills. I'm going across here, not too bad. It stubbed its chin on the first bit, but I don't think it particularly took any major damage or anything. And what I do like, one thing, is it is very lenient in high. I was practically stopped at some points there, not quite, but yeah, it lets you stay in high quite nicely, and you can feather the throttle quite a bit. You pretty much have to stop dead before it's going to stall. It does happen though. I believe it happens now when I'm climbing up here, but you can see how slow I'm going, so yeah, there, it's just that back wheel didn't quite climb up. Oh yeah, I tipped, by the way, and so I had to go all the way back round. Do that whole lap again just to get back here. And then I started tipping off now. I was like, oh no. Thankfully, originally I was turning left and trying to get back on the rocks, and then, yeah, kind of abandoned mission, swerved to the right. Thankfully I didn't tip again. Like I say, it's not terrible for tipping. It's not really that it's prone to tip, but it's just, there's not really any leeway or warning. It's just like, not tip, not tip, not tip, bang, and it's already gone and it's over. See, again here, this is doing very well through this snow, because I'm still in high gear. About now you hit little patches where it'll, like, all trucks sort of do that in high gear, where it'll let you speed up, but even in the bits where it slows you down, this is ploughing pretty nicely through the snow. So yeah, it's sort of interesting, because there's various places where it really didn't like it. And down here I kind of figured it wouldn't like this. A lot of trucks don't though. It's pretty damn deep snow as you kind of dip down here. I think if anything, like I say, all that stuff at the front, I can't remember off the top of my head if it's like a radiator sticking down or if it's some other stuff, like a sump guard or something, but whatever it is, it catches a little bit too much, and I think in general the stuff underneath the truck they could probably do with smoothing out. This was just a little bit of footage as I was flying down, like kind of like the old little rally videos I did. I quite like flying down this road, and yeah, I was able to get flat out, and I was just seeing how it handles at high speed. Even when I hit that snow there, it didn't stop me dead, so I was kind of able to sort of bounce off it. And then yeah, there's a fuel trailer in the water. Still remember flying in there with that. Came here for a little jump off the end, landed it, and then because I landed on my side, it sank pretty instantly. Still see that trailer's there as well. First thing, do you know what? I've only just realised it about 20 seconds ago. I forgot to go up the mountain on Northport. I'll have to do that on a different video because I'll be honest, from being a little bit rusty doing these videos, yeah, I've spent about the last 8 or 10 hours getting the footage, so and I didn't have a lot of sleep. Someone rang me. You know when like you've been asleep for about 4 hours and it was like, is it worth trying to get back to sleep? Because if I'm lucky, it'll take me hours just to try and get back to sleep. And then one or two things will happen. I'll get 10 minutes of sleep and then wake back up, or I'll get another like 4 or 5 hours of sleep and then wake up really late and then fuck my sleeping pattern up that way. Yeah, as well, I didn't really miss a lot, but as you can see, the video started when I was pulling the trailer down in the quarry. I just missed the bit at the top where there's like really boggy, muddy water and all the rest of it. I'm not bothered. I did notice that earlier, but this truck is so terrible in boggy, muddy water that we're not really missing anything. I can just inform you, it didn't do well, and I eventually got out of there, and then I dragged the trailer down to the quarry. I had to bring the GMC Brigadier. Thankfully I had one of them laying around to pack the cement onto the trailer. I didn't really have high hopes, all things considered, but I figured I'd give it a go. And yeah, at this point, I think, well, I do get a little bit further, but it's certainly not keen on it. Strictly speaking, I don't really know it. Even if I could have trailers, I don't think that'd really be the issue. I'd say more axles again would probably help in this kind of situation. But there's always the fact that the ramped flatbed is just a terrible trailer all around, really. But that's kind of this truck's, not punishment, but if it had, like, you could have a flat back and you could have a saddle low and all the rest of it, I always take the sideboard trailer thing if I can, but if I can't, I bring a ramped flatbed. I mean, as you can see in the quarry behind, there's, well, there used to be about that many trailers. I suppose a year, maybe over a year ago now, and it glitched and deleted them all. And then gave me another Dan. And then it stole a vehicle. Oh, it was my Voron Grad. Oh yeah, son of a bitch. Remember that, I only had that truck for a day, and it was a great truck as well. It was like the first truck that I hadn't really tried until I got to the reviews, where I was like, bloody hell, this truck's great, I'm keeping it. And the next day, gone. Snatched away. Yeah, in the end I kind of cheesed it. I put a loaf behind the trailer and then stuck a winch to the loaf and then got up that way because he's goddamn professional. He had the muscle. Oh yeah, again edited, but I got the Brigadier and I unpacked the cargo because there was no way it was getting up. It just was having none of it. And yeah, I can't even use the winch to grab anything because I'm winching the trailer, so yeah, like I say, got the loaf involved. Here he is, his beast. Gets on that hill like a good one in high gear. I got it, I was like, bloody hell, there's another one. Loafs all over the place. It's pretty handy now, to be honest, because I inevitably need more loafs. Like, that always happens. I had to buy another 10 or so tonight, because I'd run out. I think I've got 124 now or something. Well, on this playthrough anyway. Yeah, but as I travel around here and there, it's like, yes, I finally remembered to just leave a loaf here for next time. Because every time I used to do these reviews, I'd always bring a loaf, but every single time I'd recover it to Zimnogorsk, and then have to load this map back up just to recover the other loaf back to Zimnogorsk. And then I realised I've been here about 50 or 60 times. I bring a loaf every goddamn time. I need a loaf practically every time. So I'm just leaving him here. But then I still bring a loaf with me anyway. There's the yellow one down in the quarry. I think there was another loaf somewhere on this map. He gets around, he gets the job done. Climbing up here, I attempted to even move with the trailer with the cargo packed. Not a chance in hell. So again, got the Brigadier, deleted the cargo just so it's pulling an empty trailer. And it kind of got most of the way. Then it got stuck for a little while. In the end, I had to like remove the winch, drive forward, get a little bit of momentum, and then stick the winch out. And we got the trailer up that way. But again, it's an empty trailer, so not that crazy in the scheme of things. So you can just see sections like this. That's why I particularly think if it had stuff like the Tatrin tyres where it'd have more grip, because yeah, like I say, it's supposed to be a racing truck, and I don't know, you almost think like it's a racing truck, but it's like they've built it to race on a pretty flat track, where not really a flat track, but you know what I mean, like if there's any mud or boggy sections, this thing's just dead in the water. So for a racing truck, I was thinking more in my head like a real life Kamaz or whatever it is, and yeah, they're absolute units on wheels. They can go in all kinds of off-roading conditions. This doesn't really feel like it's almost, bar the power, kind of like the Formula 1 of trucks, where it can't handle a speed bump and all the rest of it. It has to be a special flat track and all that, and that's sort of, yeah, I was expecting this thing to eat the terrain for breakfast, but not so much. This thing, I mean, get yourself a loaf, he's a goddamn professional. Flies like a good one. Of course he landed on his wheels. He knows what he's doing. He's off. Yeah, tipping this thing over is pretty easy, to be honest. Like I said, it doesn't weigh a lot. And even if it did weigh a lot, I mean, the loaf would do it because he's a goddamn horse, but it doesn't particularly favour lying on its side and all the rest of it. It's like, yeah, it's pretty easy to get back to its wheels. Next up, the old ice test. I was cutting across there. Start going in a little bit. That's what she said. As soon as I turned here, you could sort of see the ice looked a bit darker, and the nose instantly plummeted in. I was like, yeah, do you know what? We'll skip that bit, because it kind of does look like, if anything, that's where the ice would break. Went across this bit, started dipping in, but kept the throttle pinned and we got out of there. Went for the second attempt, kind of, if I made it over here, I would have probably tried driving down the ice, but yeah. I mean, again, one of the issues, only 4 wheels, so there's a lot more weight per corner, blah blah blah. And yeah, there's a lot more chance of each corner breaking through the ice, and once it does, it's game over. Had a twin steer laying around, which was quite handy. Tried to ram the Sprinter out the ice, didn't. Well, it went alright. Ish. Well, I got kind of smashed the ice away from this so I can move a little bit, and then yeah, use it as a winch point. Funny enough, this was one of the few times where the winch was actually working kind of alright, but not enough to drag the twin steer. It would have redeemed itself a little bit if I could have dragged the twin steer onto the roof, but it wasn't, so of course it's time to call in the goddamn horse. It always is. See, this is how cocky I knew with a loaf. One, I know he can make it over that ice because he gets skinny when he needs to. I didn't even put chain tyres on him. I even knew specifically when I was equipping this loaf. I was like, I know it's ice, I could put the chain on, but I prefer the look of the muds. And I think at some point I turned the engine on for a second and I was like, yeah, no, I trust you, loaf. You don't need that engine on. And yeah, if I was on the blue ice, kind of as I'm heading towards now, the muds on the loaf are just wheel spin, you can barely move, let alone tow anything. But if you're on the little white patches, yeah, it gets grip even with the muds. And yeah, we got this out of there, no problems. Went to go and do a Jeff special. Basically, this thing doesn't Jeff special, but this little section going along here, I'd say, is the exception. But the ice is just so slippery that if anything has even got a remote chance of doing it, it's going to along there. But I couldn't get it to do it along the White Valley runway, which is pretty high on the list of places where it'll work. Yeah, so I'd just forget it as an option, really, unless, again, you're on, like, yeah, ice that's like glass, and that's about it. Jumping into here, just to show you, I'm surprised it didn't quite tip enough to its side there and just sink, but when you jump in, It's more the front really that floats. Obviously that doesn't help that I nosedived in there, but you'll see it. Well, the current obviously tips me over quite quick, and I'm floating, but then as soon as you're officially on your side, I'm yeah, sank like a stone. It's next up on Flooded Foothills. It feels like Flooded Foothills was later than Season 2 or something. Yeah, not a good start. As soon as I got there, hit a rock, flipped. So, attempt number 2. Hit the same rock, but kind of stopped dead instead of tipping. But bear in mind, this entire time, about now, I'm steering hard left, don't let go of it the entire time, because I already knew by now that it's a little bit iffy in water. There's a current moving, the front particularly doesn't weigh a lot. It's the front really that floats, like when I drive in water, that you'll see a bit later as well. The back will stay down, but nowhere near as good as like the Volronggrad. Yeah, again, water's not its strong suit really. You can see as soon as I got out there, hit this little patch of water and mud, and it was at this point. Sometimes I drive further down, and I suppose could even go up the waterfall and all sorts, but yeah, I was like, hell no. Going down the runway, it's got quite a nice pace. This is the sort of, like going along the runway, nice flat, straight piece of road. It can actually get up to 8th gear, but it hasn't really got the guts for everyday driving. Like, you're always in about 5th out of 8 gears, and that's about it. So I drive pretty much everywhere in high gear. Yeah, did a jump there, landed, got it quite nice. It was funny landing back here. It's like feels like home. Got a trailer in the air, got a dolphin in the water, parcel floating in the air. There's a bit of air fuel, must be running low. Got a bit lower than the last time. Got trailers scattering the water. You can see in the background there's a little speck. It's actually a flying Hummer. I managed to get another one to start flying tonight. Well, at first try. I just thought, oh, I wonder if the Hummers still fly. Bought one, launched it off the cliff, flew around like mad. I'll probably put it in tomorrow's video or something, as like I was running out of edits on this one. Again, apologies, the only bit I missed there, and I believe it was because I waited too long to save the footage. I jumped off the cliff with these two, the Sprinter and Loaf. Funnily enough, they both landed on their side, but the Loaf could start his engine because he's a beast. Stuck a winch out to, I don't even know what, something on the beach. And yeah, the Loaf got back to his wheels in half a second. I could have tipped it from the other side there. I was just curious to see, because some trucks do this. Is like, as you're towing it, and it was on its side, it didn't want to flip onto its roof as easily. As soon as it went onto its roof, it rolled over. But yeah, tipping it like on the side where you've only got to tip it 90 degrees is a piece of piss. I was just trying to effectively tip it like 270 degrees and see how easy it rolls over. And yeah, not amazingly easy, but again, the Loaf's a beast, so we got it done. As I'm going in the water now, you can see there, the front floats, the back's kind of tiptoeing on the floor, but you get so deep and it's like, it must be scraping the back end of the truck or whatever. It's definitely nowhere near like as good as the Volronggrad and stuff like that at going through the water. For whatever reason as well, it was taking a hard right. I wasn't turning. And normally with trucks, even though your front steering is obviously floating and sticking out of the water, you can actually steer like normal, but that, for whatever reason, was just going its own way. Took a pretty sharp corner around that trailer. Yeah, the Loaf, had to send him in to do the old rescue mission. To be fair, the Sprinter was pretty deep by then. That's definitely what she said. But again, it doesn't really weigh a lot, so it was easy taking it out. I'm sure at some point I tapped the winch button, but because the truck's facing the opposite way, you're better off just leaving it, because when you tap the winch button, yeah, they sort of fight against each other. Didn't mean to do that. But I know I didn't need to rescue the Loaf. I knew he'd get himself out of it. See the engine? Like, it's pretty far away from the front of the truck. Yet when you crash into anything with the front of the truck, even if you're going pretty slow, it takes damage. And yeah, considering how far away the engine is from the front, it's kind of like similar to the Dolphin in that sense. The engine's pretty far away from the front, but yeah, that thing is bulletproof. This thing, I've tapped it on walls like at a couple of mile an hour, and it will take engine damage. But it's overall not terrible for engine damage. It's just, considering where it's located, they should have really, yeah, made it practically invincible as far as crashing goes. So, when I put the Loaf on top, the reason I drove specifically the Loaf to the front of the truck is because I knew that the front will float, the rear won't, so I don't really need the loaf at the rear, I was curious to see if I could weigh the front down to see if the loaf would be enough. Like I said, he only weighs anything when he needs to, and down when he needs to. Yeah, I wanted to see if it'd weigh enough to actually sink it, because some trucks float, but even if you stick a loaf on it, it's so floaty that it ain't going to make a difference. You have to put like a big fat truck on it or something. Yeah, thankfully with this, it did actually sink the front, and then obviously that was to the point where I could take engine damage, which is nice in its own right, because I was kind of doing a snorkel test, but obviously I wasn't able to drown it because it floats, so the loaf found a way to drown it. He always does. And then yeah, in the water obviously it stalled, got in my loaf, did the zombie winch, so just stuck a winch from the back of the loaf to the back of this, and then I think I'm doing like the accelerator, put the handbrake on the loaf, so when you do the accelerator you don't move anywhere, but it kind of, via the zombie winch, tells the sprinter to start moving. And yeah, I mean there's no way on earth I'd be getting over here without the loaf, because one, the sprinter floats, so it can't reach the floor when you get like to the deep enough water, but even if it could touch the floor it'd obviously drown long before it ever made it to the other side. But yeah, stick a loaf, like I said, he's just gets the job done. He knows what he's doing. He's tall enough. He pokes out the water. This little section just can't have my loaf. It wants to, but it can't. And then yeah, I think I disconnected the loaf just because I thought I'd be close enough, but this thing just didn't really have the grip, so... But it's funny, I'm in the actual truck, and as you can see, it doesn't have enough grip. Then I inevitably switch back to the loaf. Probably that was a little glitch, not on edit. Probably like a second glitch or something, if that. Yeah, drove the loaf to the front to sink the front down, because I was like, sod it, if the back ain't gripping, we'll just have to drown it again, and I'll zombie winch it some more. There is like a little roll cage thing on top of the truck, so I'm bouncing on that a little bit, plus I believe I left the winch on for a second there. And yeah, I was a little bit rusty remembering, like, you know, which buttons to press, which order to do it. Like once you attach a winch, in the end, I don't know, I was pressing the winch and accelerator. I think one cancels the other out or whatever these days, but yeah, give them both a press and it'll something will happen. So in the end, because I just kept slipping a bit further down the sprinter each time, which was lifting the weight off the front, and then it wasn't gripping, so I then did a winch from the front of the loaf to the front of the sprinter, so that way the loaf couldn't physically slide further down, and then yeah, there we go. Kept the front weight down, we made it through deeper water than is possible, because the loaf is like a, well, like I say, it's like extra snorkel height. And then to be fair to this truck, once I got out, packed the loaf on the roof, it still let me pack it as well, even when I was like pretty deep. That's definitely what she said. But yeah, once the loaf was packed on there, it even drove up this hill. It must have been fairly close. Like, I think if I'd gone much more vertical, it would have auto unpacked the loaf, but thankfully it didn't, and we made it up there. This for the climbing up the snowy mountain test, which is situations like this where you can see it's pretty comfortable. It kind of plows up here with no issue. I stick it in high gear. Again, it's very lenient on the high gear. It doesn't feel as lenient as the Phoenix and stuff for necessarily staying in high gear. But yeah, you like, you know, you've only set off sort of half a truck length, and you can pretty much stick it in high gear and it'll pick up on it and just, yeah, start going. So in that sense, it's pretty cool. I have no idea what I'm going to pick as the thumbnail yet. Maybe that. It's not a bad one. So, yeah, at this point, beached on like the middle of the truck. There's, yeah, some guts or whatever under it that's obviously got hitboxes. They could do with just smoothing it out a little bit under there, because like when I jumped that wall, for example, it was catching a little bit on what I assume is like the prop shaft, etc. I was going to go and kill that tree. To be fair, not many trucks can kill it, but yeah, this one had no chance. But then it's weird, it kind of went quicker up the mountain than it was going down then. Like, admittedly, the snow on that side is a little bit trollish as you're heading towards that tree. That's why very few trucks have been able to kill it, but I've tried. Believe me, I've tried. Yeah, it kind of got up that side alright, and then I figured now, Again, look, beached. Yeah, just do a hard right. Give it a roll. And to its credit, I mean, I took some engine damage there, but then various bounces now. I'm not really taking a whole lot. And yeah, it's not really, I mean, it's not made of glass. It's certainly not rock solid or anything, but I've not really had any issues all night with damages and stuff. I've taken damage, but never really enough, or rarely, to the point where I have to fix it. And it has got onboard repair points. I believe it's only like 150 or something, not many. Obviously the loaf's got double that, but yeah, it's better than nothing. At least if you just take like a trollish whack on your fuel tank, you have got something so you can patch that up. So yeah, in conclusion, like it's not terrible, but it's not good enough to justify what it is, which is just a racing truck that you're going to go flying around, well, in theory, go flying around the maps on. Yeah, long story short, there's a new mod, Z2 blah 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 Tiger. What was it called? The Dakar. Yeah, it's a race truck. It's the Tiger, or the newer Tiger, I believe. And yeah, it eats this for breakfast. Just not even in like power. Just it's a much better made truck, to be honest. That's all there is to it. Price wise, I think it's 113 fully done up. It's funny looking there. It's the same price as the Dolphin. Get yourself a Dolphin instead of this. Unless you've got loads of them, then maybe get one of these if you got enough. But yeah, that's about it. I mean, it's alright. It's not crap, but it definitely ain't great. But yeah, that's about it for today, though. I hope you enjoyed. I hope that helps. Thanks for watching. Thanks to my Patreon members. Get yourself a loaf because he's a goddamn beast. And I'll be back soon.